The Beijing Wind Energy 2019 Expo is underway. I caught up with Henrik Andersen, the CEO of Denmark-based Vestas Wind Systems, which is the world's largest wind turbine maker. He spoke about the offshore wind market and how trade tariffs are affecting the business.
China is in many ways a leading market, and it is the world's largest in renewable energy. It is also the market that has been working on the renewable energy for such a long time. For me personally, it's kind of a déjà vu. I've been in China for two other industries over the last 2 decades, so I really enjoy being back in Beijing for the conference. I've really been enjoying being here to meet a lot of our stakeholders. Some of them are partners in the supply chain, some of them are customers of ours. So it's nice to be in Beijing and talk with the guys about what is happening. How do we get the grid parity in China after 2020, and how do we cope with that as part of that supply chain and value chain?
So even though you are the largest foreign OEM for wind turbines in China, overall foreign OEMs only make up 5% of this very large market. What does it take to win in this market? And does this mean that you're more competitive in offshore, perhaps?
I don't know if we can say more competitive in offshore, because offshore is just in the reality of the start of it. And globally we have been investing in offshore for many years. In 2014 we formed a joint venture together with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, and which out of that came what we call MWOW in short version, but the Mitsubishi Vestas offshore wind. And I think for us it's super interesting to see that the offshore is now projected to have such an interesting part of the whole journey of renewable energy in the coming 20 years. Having said that, offshore is still less than 10% of what is the installed base projected for both 19 and 20. So therefore there is still quite a long way before offshore really comes to the same volume as we have seen in the onshore part.
But back to the fact that China is such a large market and foreign OEMs only take up 5%. Do you think that will change in the short term?
I don't think it will change in the short term. In reality, I think those are trends that I think will change over a long time. And why do I say that? There is a certain history, there is a certain way of doing very closely with domestic OEMs in China that has served China quite well. But I also think when we are now moving into a new tariff and a new grid parity system, that probably forces people to look more, not necessarily only on the initial investment into the turbine, but what is actually the total cost of ownership of the turbine, and therefore the power plant of its expected lifetime, which is 20 years.
And how is your Tianjin factory being impacted by the ChinaUS trade tariffs?
So for us, the initial reaction is it will put a lot of pressure on our earnings, because you will have to reroute. That means increased transportation costs, or and as I said, a customer relation and a customer deal is a customer deal. So there is only so much you can turn to the customer in the short run. Having said that, joined Vestas at 1st of August as chief exec. I think most of the places where I go now globally, I see customer that says, we appreciate the prices have gone up. We want to understand why they have gone up and how much they have gone up. But the truth of it is the whole global supply chain has been hit, not only as a Vestas phenomenon, but also as much hitting other parts of the industry. And that means every global industry player have seen some of the same effects to the supply chain.